Hello techno, synth and groovebox lovers. In this video we will check out the Akai Force stem separation and see how well it really works. I will be using my own song because I've got my own stems available for that, of course, then compare them with the stem separation outcome, and I will also use Logic Pro on my computer. It also has a stem separation plugin, and compare the outcome of that one too. So this might be really interesting. Let's get to it. Alright, let me show you how I set up the stem comparison. On the first channel I've got the original stems of my song Not Too Late. Then on the second channel I've got the Akai Force stem plugin, and just to give it a little bit more comparison I used another plugin. I have two DAWs, Ableton and Logic Pro, and Logic Pro also has a stem separation plugin, so I used that one too and compared the original stems with the Force plugin stems with the Logic Pro plugin. So let's have a look at the outcome together. Okay, the stem separation plugin, let me go to clip, always splits up every track into vocals, bass, drums and others, and this is why I arranged my pads in the same way. So in the first group we've got on the first pad my original track, Not Too Late. I took a vocal from Splice and turned it into a track. And then on the second pad we've only got the bass. In this case here, Reese bass and sub bass. The sub bass fills in the empty part between the kicks. Then next one is the vocal itself. Not too late to chase the sun. It came with some background strings. This is why you hear them here in this example. To chase the sun. But the stem separation plugin should be able just to filter out the vocals. Then next are the drums. And finally I've got all my synth, arpeggiators, piano, pads. Okay. So, and this is the same order throughout all of the three groups. And now it's time to check out the results. Let's start with the Force stem separation plugin first. Again, on the first pad we've got the original track. Let me show you a little bit more of it. Maybe the drop here. Pretty low key. Not too fancy. And then later on in the track we've got playing everything together. So especially the parts in the back will be pretty difficult for the plugin to separate. Okay, let's listen to the bass first. Yeah, sounds pretty metallic. Let's compare it with the original. Punchier, stronger, clearer. Again, this Akai Force stem result. Yeah, so the quality is really bad, we've got to admit it. I have to say though that I used lots of sidechain compression, which is why we have this pumping effect here. Yeah, you can hear lots of artifacts as soon as more elements come together. Let's move on to the next one. This is the vocal. Not too late to chase the sun. Comparison with the original one. Not too late to chase the sun. So here it did a pretty good job, but there weren't many instruments playing at the same time. So if we move back, further back in the track, then we hear that the sound quality decreases drastically. Many artifacts, pretty metallic. Let's listen to the original.
Not too late to chase the sun. Just you wait, change is gonna come.
Okay, then let's go further to the drums. Drums in the end. Drums in the beginning. Sound pretty much the same. Let's compare it with the original drums. Much cleaner. We don't have these artifacts, of course, since the original stem. And then last but not least, all the melodic elements, arpeggiator, synth, and so forth and so on, pads. That's the stem plugin result. Let's listen to the original. Yeah, we can hear much more details. And there is an enormous discrepancy in terms of sound quality, of course. Yeah, sounds pretty choppy, metallic, lots of artifacts. After having compared the original stems with the result of the Force stem plugin, I mean, we expected that there were some differences, but I didn't expect them to be that drastic. And quite frankly, I think the stem separation plugin didn't do a good job so far. I also wanted to compare it with another plugin. I've got two DAWs, Ableton, which doesn't have a stem separation plugin, and Logic Pro, that does. So this is why we have this third channel here, and let's use this channel in order to compare the Logic Pro results with the Akai Force results. Okay, on the first pad we again have the original track, and let's get started with the bass. Yeah, you cannot hear every sub bass, but some of the sub bass is coming through. We can hear the Reese bass, but not the higher tones. Let's compare it with the outcome of the Force plugin. We've got the higher tones, but the overall sound quality sounds definitely worse. And you can almost not hear the sub bass at all. And here we've got other tracks or other stems bleeding into the bass stem. Let's listen to the original. Force. Logic. Okay, I'd say the Logic bass stem is better than the Force stem, but still not really convincing. Let's move on to the vocals.
Not too late to chase the sun. Just you wait, change is gonna come.
It did a really great job. It also has this reversed sample in there. I sampled the vocals, put a lot of reverb on it, and sampled it in order to create some transitional effects. So it's okay that it's in there because it's actually the vocals. And this one sounds quite good. Let's listen to the original.
Not too late to chase the sun. Just you wait.
So it only had to filter out the strings.
Not too late to chase the sun.
And that worked pretty well. Let's listen to the Force result again.
Not too late.
Let's go back to the beginning where there's not too much going on.
Not too late to chase the sun. Just you wait.
Okay, acceptable, but the Logic result is definitely better. Let's move on to the drums. Logic drums. Let's pick the beginning. Akai Force. We have some parts of the arpeggiator bleeding into the drum stem. Here the original drums. Force and Logic Pro. Logic Pro included the sub bass here into the kick, and the percussions were also not included into drums. Here you can also hear the sub bass and a little bit more higher tones. Then let's go to the last part. Those are all the instruments. You can hear the arpeggiator, the pads. Can you hear the piano too? Yeah. But I can also hear some hi-hats blending through. Let's listen to the Force result. Okay. The arpeggiator is not there at all. It somehow became a little bit a part of the drum, stem. And let's do a final comparison. The original instruments. Force. And Logic. Logic is pretty close though. So what's the outcome of this comparison? Definitely we can expect no wonders from stem separation software. Logic Pro was more convincing than the Force stem separation plugin, especially if there is a lot going on in the track. Both plugins are struggling. However, we can clearly hear a difference when it comes to filtering out the voice. Here is the Logic Pro.
Not too late to chase the sun. Just you wait, change is gonna come.
And here is the Akai Force stem.
Not too late to chase the sun. Just you wait, change is gonna come.
In comparison with the original, which has some background elements.
Not too late to chase the sun. Just you wait, change is gonna come.
Both plugins did a good job in isolating the voice when there was not much going on in the background.
Not too late to chase the sun.
This is almost perfect. The Logic Pro separation. Force.
Not too late to chase the sun.
Still a bit choppy. I hear some artifacts, but overall it's okay. So I hope this gave you a realistic impression of stem separation these days. I think there is still some development needed to create good stem separation plugins, but it's a start. So in the end, I can only say it's a realistic comparison, and I think you can see that stem separation still has a long way to go, especially on the Force.